I would like to welcome and thank you all for attending today's webinar. We're going to focus on large format estimating. Before we get started, I would ask that you go ahead and put your phones and microphones on mute so we don't get any feedback when those that are talking, and that way we can just focus on them. Today we have Dean from Sirius here with us. He's going to take us through this estimating project that you see on your screen. He's going to actually estimate it in Control and show us how you can complete that quote in just a few minutes. But before that, we have Jude from Dickson Graphics. Adam's been using Control for several months now, and we've asked him to join us and talk about some of his achievements, including his win rate on estimates and how many he's able to close that he gives out, and also some other things that he's achieved. And before using Control, something like this estimate, Adam was doing by hand or using a number of spreadsheets, so he'll kind of talk about a little bit about that too. Adam, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you if you want to talk a little bit about your experience with Control.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I've already been introduced, obviously, but to give you a little bit of background about myself, I was new to the sign industry 3 years ago, had no idea about any of the industry at all. So when I started, I've got an accounting background, and I thought that the pricing part of this would be the easiest part. Little did I know that it would actually balloon and become what I consider the gremlin of the business because of the time involved in getting estimates to the customer. Initially it was a confusing thing to look at because how do you price a sign if you've never done it before? So of course, you go online or you ask other people in the industry and you get mixed ideas on how to go about it. And there's two basic ideas, which is based on square footage or cost, and I decided to go with the square footage route, which at first it seemed pretty easy, taking the materials obviously into consideration and then coming up with what I needed for a square foot price to make it profitable for the business. The problem is every estimate is different. So you've got one customer that may need a decal with a laminate or without, and so you got to remember to add that into your estimates, whether you're using a spreadsheet, which I did on some of it because of time, I just quickly scribbled it down and took a calculator and come up with the estimate price. The problem with that is the customer may say, well, I'll get back with you in a couple of weeks, and then a couple of weeks go by, and then they come back and you give them the price again, and you're either higher, which is a turnoff to the customer, or you were actually lower than what you quoted last time, and they say, oh, that's better than last time, and it just really made you sick to know that you lost money because you weren't being consistent with your pricing. As the business grew and I added employees, the problem only compounded. We were able to do more work, but I was always the bottleneck in the business. And I talked to other businesses as well, and people that are doing the same thing that I was doing, which is estimating by hand or using a spreadsheet and then using QuickBooks for the accounting side. They were always the logjam in the business on getting the information to the customers so they could make an intelligent decision and move forward with the project. I was frustrated. I was exhausted. Most of my estimates happened late at night, because that's the only time that I had to focus on them, as I had to run the business during the day and answer the phone. Again, it only got worse and worse and worse the bigger we got, and eventually I knew that I needed to do something about it, so I started looking around, and that's when I obviously found Sirius. And I can say that the software has absolutely turned my business around, just from the aspect of the time frame. Now, instead of me waiting until night to do estimates, or even maybe a couple days later because of the time frame that I have to get everything done, I can do estimates now just in a few minutes, and as soon as I've got the information from the customer keyed in, I can email them the estimate to them directly. So there's no confusion. My employees can also do the estimate or review estimates that I've sent. So if a customer calls them, they can talk intelligently about the estimate and know why it costs what it does. And the best part is I don't have to be here as much as I used to, simply because my employees can estimate, and the price that they estimate is identical to the estimate that I would do, which takes the guesswork out. of estimating. One of the beautiful things that I have noticed is in looking at the estimates that we do, we're actually getting estimates to the customer while they're standing in front of us. And the longest part of the time is just putting their information into the software, obviously just because of a key punch. But the thing is when you get the information in, as soon as you have their information, they immediately get an email of the invoice or the estimate sent directly to their inbox. So not only did they get something that you printed off for them, but they also have something electronically in case they lose that estimate and can't remember what the pricing was. And I've noticed that our win rate has went from 40 to 50%, which I feel like was due to the inability to get them an estimate in a timely manner, and it's increased to 85 to 90%. So the thing is in doing or working with Sirius, we've actually picked up business because now the customer has the opportunity to get the estimate right away, and before they decide to spend that money on another project or do something else with it, they go ahead and tell you, yeah, let's go ahead and do that, because that's why they came in the shop to begin with, was they wanted to do it. The problem that for us is we never could get them an estimate in a timely manner for them to make that decision on site. The best part as well has been the hours that I worked typically ranged from 7:30 in the morning until 10 to 11 o'clock at night. Most of the time it was later than that. And if you truly have been in the sign business for a couple of years and your business has been growing, then you understand exactly where I'm coming from. And the worst problem with that is me being married and having a 2-year-old daughter. She was growing up without me. And I can say that the software has definitely given me the ability to go home and spend time with my daughter and my wife, which is the most important thing out of this whole scenario. Having said all of that, it's a no-brainer. I wished I'd known about this software 2 or 3 years ago. Looking at it, you think that the price is unreachable or unattainable, but I can tell you now that with the time savings, the jobs that you'll win, the increase in some pricing structures, but as well as decreasing in others that'll help you be more competitive and pick up those jobs, it's well worth every penny. And I can tell a huge financial change in the income statement, as well as, obviously our balance sheet, looking at the bank statements and seeing the change, and it all happened around the time that we purchased the software. I don't know what else you could say other than if you're looking to save time, if you're looking to increase picking up customers as they walk through the door for estimates, then look no further.
Adam, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and a little bit about the change that you've seen. We certainly appreciate your time, and we are happy to see the success and continue to wish the best for you. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Dean. Dean, if you're ready to pull up control and start estimating the project that you'll see, and we'll go through this, and certainly we can have questions at the end, and we'll keep going. All right, Dean, go for it.
Thank you, Kristen. And Adam, thanks for taking a moment to share that. Much appreciated. Let's focus now on the screen here. Visually, I have a spec sheet, and you will notice that there's really 2 images. The first image is at the top, which is a 4x8. The image below that is 11.75 by 72 inches. And then we have 2 4x4 posts. If we take a look at the first image, it's a digital print. It's going to be printed on a vinyl and mounted or applied to a 10 mil Coro. It's then going to be mounted to the 4x4 post. And then image 2 is 11 3/4 by 72 inches, and it's a cut vinyl process. So we're going to use an intermediate vinyl, and we're going to apply that to a 10 mil piece of Coro as well, which will end up being mounted to the 4x4 post. Now let's move into control. Here on the screen is a list of my products, and in this example we're going to take a look at a roll sign print. This is going to be the 4x8 image, and it's a very easy and simple interface to capture the specifics from that spec. And we're going to be doing 2 of these. It was double-sided. It was an image on each side of the post. So we have a quantity of 2, which will be single-sided. We're going to run 4x8 by 96. And as an example, we'll run this on the Mamaki. You could, of course, select other pieces of equipment. And here is our material type categories. In this example, we're going to use the vinyl category, which will give us a list of the vinyl options. Now we're going to print this on a calendared vinyl. We could apply the application tape if we needed it. And down below, we're going to choose our mounting option. In this case, we're going to say it's the sheet of Coro. So that's our Coro category. And we're going to apply this to a 4x8 sheet 10 mil Coro. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And we'll go to our next image, which is going to be the process of cut vinyl. So we'll go to our cut vinyl sign. And again, we're going to need 2 of these. They're going to be single-sided. It was 11 3/4 by 72 inches. And we could, of course, enter in the text here for work order purposes, but in this case we'll leave it blank. And now we'll drop down to the material type of Coro, and again we're going to pick that 10 mil 4x8 sheet of Coro. Now for estimating purposes, we may not want to utilize that full sheet for cost reasons, so we can say just use the print area only, so we're not wasting as much. We'll use the remainder of that sheet on another project that comes through. So we'll do that, and then we'll select an intermediate vinyl that we're going to apply. And we're going to say it's black. And we're going to use about 50% fill from that image. So we're going to click OK here. And you can see how it's building it out. We now have the 4x8. We now have the 11 3/4 by 72. And now we're just going to drop down to the post category. And we're going to pick the post that will be applied to it. In this example, we'll use wood. These are going to be 4x4 post, and we'll use the 12 foot. We're going to need 2 per set. This will be about 108 inches above the ground. We'll then drop down to the install method, which is going to be direct burial. We're going to put 36 inches down, according to our spec sheet. And let's throw in 1 bag of Quikrete. And I click OK, and my quote is finished. It would be $750.86 for this spec. And that's the 2 4x8s, that's the 2 11 3/4 by 72, and that is going to be the 2 4x4 post. Now, if this was going to be installed, we would then just drop to our installation category, and we would pick the installation. And we can add in the install. We're going to do that at the customer's location. It will bring over the address from the company record. If it's something different, then we should choose a third party and capture that address. In this case, we may say we need 2 installers. This is a 4x8 sheet, so we may need 2 people. We may charge for travel time. We'll say it's a half an hour. And it's going to be about an hour and a half of installation. Any equipment we may need to bring, we could specify that. Other than that, we're done. $300 for the install. We can click OK. So now you can see how we've easily built this quote out directly from the spec sheet. We have the images, we have the post, we have the install. If your customer says, well, hey, look, I can do the installation myself, you can select your item, you can delete it. Say yes, it'll remove that item. We're back at the $750.86. Otherwise, we were at the $1,000.50.86. Now, the nice thing about this entire process of building out this quote is going to be a tab called the Parts tab, and we'll look at it briefly. The Parts tab is all the equipment, the labor, and the material used to build this finished good. So we have the machine time, we have the labor, we have the ink, we have the material, and that's going to be for the digital print, That's for the cut vinyl, and that is going to be for the post. And there is a cost associated with each of these, and this would be your direct cost of what it costs you to run that piece of equipment or what it costs you for that material. So over here to the left, we have a total cost of what it's going to take to produce this, as well as our sale price. So we have an estimated margin right here on the screen. So let me switch back to the items tab. So we have the 3 items, and then we'll jump back to the spec sheet just so you can see it. Again, we have the 4x8 image at the top. We have the cut vinyl process, which is 11 3/4 by 72, and it's going to be mounted to the 4x4 post. So within a matter of minutes, I have a complete estimate, and I also know what my total cost will be to produce it, showing me my true profit.